morning I'd like to welcome Chris Parkin, the founder of the Parkin Drawing Prize, held each year in New Zealand with a very handsome prize purse of $25,000 New Zealand. Hi Chris, how are you?
I'm great. When you said handsome, I thought you were talking about me, but I look like a toad.
Okay. Now let's start by mentioning who the crew is, who helps you with the Parkin Prize.
We've got my communications manager, Rebecca Reid, probably my main help, but also the Academy of Fine Arts here in Wellington do a great job, and in return for the entrance fee, the collective entrance fee, they put on the 1 month exhibition. They do all the curating, the unpacking, the repacking. So that's the main help.
What is the future of the Parkin Drawing Prize?
I think it's a bit like, how you learn from history. It's probably a bit the same as the past. I think probably the number of entries is sort of to be expected is probably not going to grow much beyond 600 or 700 each year, as people sort of get used to the milieu. And I think that as far as prize money goes, that's something that we might actually review as time goes on, given inflation and expectations and all of the other things. Also, making sure it's a respectable prize in relation to other prizes of similar ilk around New Zealand. So, but apart from that, I think format-wise, we're not going to see too much change at all. It seems to be working well. It's a format that people seem to have fitted into relatively easily. The main changes, I think, over my planned 20 years is going to be the nature of the content itself, I think, and that's probably something that you want to talk about later anyway.
Sure. Okay, so let's just look at some of those numbers from last year. Do you recall off the top of your head how many entrants you had, and just as importantly for participating artists, how many sales you actually managed to get last year?
Well, answering the second question first, because I think that's really one of the important issues with support of a prize like this. The whole point of that exhibition is not just actually to show the work off, but it's also to actually generate revenue for the artists. Yeah. And last year we had a much more successful capital raising, if you like, than we had earlier on. And I think that's because we tended to emphasise that a little more with the people who are visiting, that the works are for sale, and that that it does support the artists and so on. So I think, I can't remember the exact number from last year, but it's significantly up, and I'd be surprised if it's not up a stage further this year. Sometimes we find that the artists a little unrealistic in their pricing, both ways, funnily enough. Some are way too cheap, and others are probably way too expensive for the audience. But no, we're making progress on there. As to the numbers, I think last year from memory was about 450 entrants, and that also was up about 50, I think, on the previous year. So pretty happy with it, really, and I think it'll gradually grow. But I don't think we're suddenly going to get 1,000 entrants or 2,000 entrants. And if we did, it would be difficult for the judges to manage, quite frankly. What we've got at the moment is a sort of a manageable prize, I think.
Chris, who have we got judging the 2017 Parkin Prize?
Well, at the moment, one of the judges from last year, Kelsey Tarator from Tauranga, he'll be a repeat judge, or I'm hoping he will be. I've also asked Simon Rees from the Gavette Brewster Gallery in New Plymouth, very well-known gallery in New Zealand. John Gow, who's a well-known art dealer in Auckland, been around for a long, long time, really knows his art. And I'm also hoping to interest Jill Trevelyan, who's one of the art personnel at Te Papa, and wrote a very compelling biography of Peter McLeavy, a local art dealer here, a couple of years ago. So that's where it is at the moment. Not all confirmed yet, but that's what I'm expecting.
And what do you think the judges will be looking for in the entrance?
One of the things I try and do each year is by leavening the judging mix. I'm hoping that each year that the change there is a change in what they're looking for, but it's not too radical. So a little bit of continuity, I think, helps get subtle change rather than radical change. I think from year to year, the biggest variation is between works that lay people would consider drawing and works that lay people would probably wonder aloud about why is that a drawing and not a something else. And so from year to year, last year it tended to be more emphasis on the, if you like, recognisable drawing. The previous year it was a little bit the other way. So I suspect that the judges this year will be no different, and that on depending on just what their individual tastes are, it will be either more or less drawing as we recognise it or drawing as it might be.
So, National Gallery of Victoria has a really terrific exhibition of the David Hockney iPad and iPhone drawings where all the brushstrokes and the gestures were captured and then replayed so that you get this animated sequence. As a casual viewer, I found it absolutely fascinating. I was astonished. And he calls them drawings, and I was just wondering whether that sort of thing would be allowed in your show, in your prize.
Well, I think I'll start by saying one way of absolutely killing the Parkin Drawing Prize would be to try and define drawing. I think then you just end up in an endless and quite fruitless debate about the nature of drawing. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Hockney exhibition in a couple of weeks when I'm coming to Melbourne. And I was fascinated in your comments on the, sort of iPad brushstrokes treated as drawing. And I guess we've all got to get used to the idea that with modern technology, the way the world is going, trying to define what is in conventional or historic terms just doesn't work, and it doesn't work quicker than it's ever not worked in the past. So what we're actually faced with, I think, is just having to maintain a really open mind, and also within ourselves, and we can only do this individually, is redefining within ourselves what art actually is. And I think that and drawing clearly, and is pretty fundamental to all that. So the way I see it is that our minds are going to be stretched with the weird and wonderful, which if the artist describes as drawing, who am I to disagree? My job really is to look at it and I suppose pretty much make up my mind whether I like it or I don't. Absolutely not. I mean, the judges, I guess, would then look at it and say, well, is this exhibitable? Because it does have to be exhibitable. Where does this generally sort of fit in? Is it good enough compared to the range of other entries we've had to actually make the final cut? And I see absolutely no reason why it shouldn't. I mean, in the past, we've had a bootlace nailed to a wall that made the cut. So you can... some weird, wonderful stuff.
That's kind of interesting. Well, it's just interesting, I suppose. I mean, the David Hockney exhibition did raise a whole lot of questions about the future of displaying and making art, and also the future of production, I guess. It's still a gesture, it's just on a different media. And I guess that's all that really matters, isn't it, when it comes down to, like as a drawing, for example.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I suppose in a way, the nature of art is such that practitioners usually have two goals. One is a creative goal, the other is a survival goal. I mean, and it's a question of how where the actual needle points to in terms of balance between the creative and the survival that probably guides artists into either being very true to what they firmly believe, or alternatively producing art which sells, to put it crudely. And I think that is going to continue, as it always has, to be the sort of testing ground. And artists the whole world over are going to fall somewhere in that continuum between a totally creative person that actually doesn't care about survival, and those that really could just as easily be house painters, because they're really just at the end of the day producing a product. And so trying to actually see where all this goes is actually very difficult. And I always come back in my own mind to really, some pretty basic stuff. Do I like it?
Yeah, yes. And is it an informed like, or is it a biased like? I mean, there's a lot of that goes into it as well. I suppose that's always one of the challenging things of art, is that if you don't like something, you have to really question why you don't like it and why it's there and being presented to you because somebody likes it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So thank you very much for your time, and for all those artists, New Zealand-based artists or New Zealand-born artists out there who have a penchant for drawing and would like to participate in this wonderful prize. Please get your entries in, and as Chris was saying, go to Parkin Prize. What's the URL?
.org.nz, I think. Yeah. www.parkinprize.org.nz.
We'll see how it goes. Anyway, you can always get to it from Art Prizes. All right, Chris, thanks very much.
Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed it.